Hello, so can I take driving lessons now? That's the question many people are asking me, and I've got the latest updates here. This is brand new information, so let's get straight into it. And this comes from the DIA, which is the Driving Instructors Association. Now, over the last few weeks, I've made a lot of videos about this topic and about driving and learning to drive at this time. The information so far has been, if you're a key worker, you can do lessons. If you're not a key worker, don't do lessons. But that has now changed. So let me go over the details. So it says there's been I'll put a link to this in the description below. So if you want to read this for yourself, have a look at the link in the description. It says there has been some confusion around key and critical workers. DVSA is now using the terms key workers and emergency testing for key workers. So they're making it more specific now. It's no longer just a case of if you're a key worker, like if you're a nurse, you can do lessons, and if you're not, you can't. It's a bit more involved and a bit more in depth than that now. It says the type of training deems unessential and that should be avoided. So this is the list of people here who should not be considered urgent and don't need to take lessons urgently. Learners and novices of anyone who's not a key worker. So if you're not a key worker, you should not really be doing lessons at the moment. It's strongly advised, and I myself personally would strongly advise against that. The other people who aren't seen as essential, learners and novices who are going from scratch. So if you're a complete novice, if you haven't driven at all and you're completely at the beginning, that is seen as being unessential, even for key workers. That's the interesting part, because a lot of people are saying, well, I'm a key worker, so I can learn to drive. And it says here, it's unlikely that new learners would pass their test soon enough to be able to undertake a useful and safe driving role as a key worker at this time. So in other words, if you say, well, I'm a nurse and I need to pass my test, if you're a nurse, you're probably very busy working at the moment, doing a great job, which everyone appreciates. And the thing is, it's simply not going to be possible to learn to drive in a week while you're working as a nurse. And there's another good point on that coming up in a moment. It says it could also cause too much road risk to encourage new drivers, novice drivers, to rapidly gain a license. So in other words, they're saying they're worried about people who are going to rush through their lessons and the test, and they're not going to fully, be learning and taking it in as they normally would be. Now, I would say that if you are working at the moment as a nurse or a carer or anything like that, I think you would probably be finding it hard to concentrate on learning to drive. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'd like to know that. So it says another kind of people we shouldn't take on training development of anyone who's not a key worker. So someone who wants to improve the skills, like on the motorway, for example. If a key worker wants to improve the motorway skills, because people have been asked to work at different hospitals and care homes and whatever, that's okay. But if you're not a key worker, you should not be expecting, motorway lessons. A good point is training or development where the key worker does not have an essential need to drive in their role. Now, I have had, not many, but I've had a few. And you might be watching this video thinking it's you, and it's probably not, because lots of people have emailed me. I have had some people email me wanting lessons who are kind of trying to be a key worker to get lessons, if you see what I mean. They're trying to make out like, oh yeah, I'm a key worker. And when they tell me what they're doing for a living, it's not really being a key worker. They're trying to kind of bend the rules to get the lessons in. We've been told to watch out for that. So it can be quite hard for us to make that call. We've got to decide, do we think the person's role is vital enough? Because there are some key workers who are more vital than others. And I don't want to start categorising key workers. Everyone's important. So it says here, this is the training that would be deemed necessary. So these are the people we should be teaching if we decide to. Key workers who have a practical emergency test confirmed with DVSA. If you've already got a test booked and it's confirmed, you are more sort of accepted for lessons than someone who hasn't got a test booked. key workers requiring new licences for essential frontline roles such as emergency response workers, acquiring a licence or needing licences in new categories. So let's just say someone who works and is training to be a paramedic, for example. I taught someone a few years back, I wonder if you're still watching, who was a paramedic, and obviously they need to be able to drive the ambulance, or whatever vehicle they're driving. Key workers needing development, this is the one I mentioned before, if they need to drive on a motorway and they're unfamiliar and they want like a quick refresher or quick, quick enhancement course on the motorway, we can do that. And the last one on the list are key workers needing driver development for new or increased occupational context. It's quite a confusing one, and whose driving risk may therefore be greater. This includes increased commuting to multiple work locations, and again it's the same sort of thing. If people are not familiar with driving in the dark or driving on different types of road, that kind of lesson may be accepted. The big part now for instructors, risk assessment. Trainers are driving instructors, not the trainers you wear on your feet. Trainers are driving instructors. Trainers should carefully consider the risks involved in delivering in vehicle at this time, as they will be unable to socially distance. So in other words, it's saying, if you do lessons, it's up to you. It's been left up to instructors to make that choice. Examples of key worker training which may be required at this time: a nurse or other frontline healthcare professional who's now required to work at a different location. So again, it's saying if they're unfamiliar with motorways, they may be asked. I should imagine nurses at the moment might be asked to work in a place different to normal. I know many from the Midlands went to London, I think, to work there because of the surge in cases there. A community worker being required to take their CBT in order to be more agile. So it does cover motorbikes as well. There is a separate section on bikes at the bottom, which I'll go over in a moment. People who've been recruited as a delivery driver covering rural areas and want to develop their skills in rural areas. A key worker new to the UK, so someone who maybe has come from abroad and wants some lessons to familiarise themselves with UK roads. So in other words, just because you're a key worker does not mean you should be taking driving lessons. And it's saying about guidance, this I won't go through all of it, but it's saying we need to ask people if they have symptoms. If anyone in the family has symptoms, you both need to wash your hands. I've been over all this before in other videos, and you need to keep the windows open. We need to clean the wheel with alcohol gel, all that kind of thing. Now there is a big section for motorbike instruction. I'll go over this briefly, and I'm not discounting motorbikes. I've got nothing against bikes. This is primarily a car channel, but it's for anyone who's interested in safe driving, safe riding. As with driving instructors, on Mrs. Part 8, it says we do need to call the people ahead, call them on the day or text them and ask if they're feeling okay. Same for motorbikers. Make sure all the equipment is sanitised, like gloves, helmets, fastening straps, fuel taps, handlebars and grips. Lots of things you can touch on a bike, as there is in a car. When you stop for brakes on the road, monitor the client. It says body temperature increases greatly when you wear motorcycle clothing. Like I suppose if you are wearing leathers, your temperature may go up, so it can be difficult to check whether it's a fever or temperature. If you're refuelling, remove protective gloves and put on disposable gloves provided. And it's pretty much the same. It's the same sort of thing about check for signs of fever. I'm not skipping over this for bikers, it's just you can read it for yourself. It's very similar. Sanitise the bike, the handlebars, make sure the key is sanitised. And it says, as a note of caution, the police are stopping people who are out in their cars to ask them what they're doing. And it's saying the same for bikes. It says it's an extremely difficult and worrying time for us all. We appreciate the financial loss, but we consider it's not possible for us to comply with current social distancing measures while teaching in a car. We realise that any decision regarding your business is ultimately your own to make, but I hope that this announcement might help those of you with uncertainty about the appropriate course of action to take. So in other words, what it's saying is, it goes on about driving tests. I've already done videos about those. If you're a key worker, you should be able to get one sooner, but it's not guaranteed. There is a page on my website that I'll link to below. In fact, if you go to firstdrive.com/news, you'll see many pages and many videos. I think I've made about 12 videos now about this virus outbreak. So check out the other videos on the screen. Keep checking back to this channel for the latest news on this situation. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon for more videos.